this evening. I do apologize I was not be able to be there in physical in person. Unfortunately, my flight schedule has changed on me, and I'm actually stuck in New Orleans right now. But
that's
I'm
horrible.
here virtually in presence with everyone. So it's a pleasure to see everyone. Hope everyone's doing well, and we'll go ahead and get started with our meeting. First thing on the agenda here is a pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. If we can go ahead and get that started with that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll take a moment of silence for our former members, students, and anyone affiliated with the APA community. All right, thank you. All right, first thing on the agenda here.
We got two, we're good.
Angie, do we have anyone signed up for public comments this evening?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, I think we have the other two coming in. Hello, Angie. Hello, Michelle. Thank you.
Hello. Apologies.
First thing on the agenda here is if I can get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight for the April 25th, 2023 board meeting at 6 p.m. here.
I'll move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll be glad to second that.
All right, thank you. We have a motion in the second. Any further discussion?
Let's see now, we do have the 23-24 budget second reading. However, because there's basically nothing new from our first reading budget, that will not occur tonight. Is that correct?
We'll just have a brief discussion
Or
about it.
just brief discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Agenda is fine as
So it
written.
can stay as is then?
All right. Any other further discussion? Thank you, Dave, for that. If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Our motion carries. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is approval of our minutes from our board meeting that we just had here in April.
I'll move that we approve the minutes as presented.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from those? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda here is approval of our CEO report for this evening. Anyone needs to take a minute or two, we can take a minute or so and go through it, and then we can call for a vote.
Well, I'll be glad to make a motion that we approve our April CEO report as presented to us in the board package.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have one question, I guess, on page 1 here under our official ADM numbers. Back in September, we had 60 virtual students, and then the February count was 73. So let's see, we lost from 850 to 833, we lost 17 kids. But virtual students only receive 85% funding. So that means that we lost a little bit on that account by gaining in the virtual on the February count, or is that, how does that work, I wonder?
Yeah, so basically, they shore that up. If you look at our official ADM numbers, where we had a 13 student increase, they actually look to see how long they have been enrolled in virtual. So if they just moved into virtual in January or right at December, then they still count as an in-person student. So they have to
Okay.
be enrolled in a virtual program for X amount of days before they are counted one way or the other.
Okay,
So it doesn't, I mean, that would pretty much account for when I gave my estimate in February, end of February, where I thought we would be, and I was 6,500, somewhere in there, over. That is what I accounted for, and so actually, we are gaining that 6,500.
Right,
So,
okay.
yeah, that's where it shakes out that way.
Well, that's good then, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and we've seen an increase kind of students moving from one program to the other. A lot of it is family situations. We also have some students that being in the in-person environment due to behavior or attendance has not really been going so well for them, so they have chosen to go into a different environment to see if that would help. And then we do. Obviously, there has been an increase in some school safety concerns nationwide, and especially after the last couple of weeks where we had the quote-unquote false alarm up in Ellick and things. People feel a little nervous, just like when we, COVID was ramping up, and as our numbers in the community go up and down, we have people that thankfully we have this programming available for them where they can stay enrolled, they can do what they feel is best for their student and still receive the APA education.
Okay.
Jill, I have a question.
Yes.
Just skimming over the numbers were pretty consistent, at least for your seniors, for most of the year. And all of a sudden, from January, they went up a little bit, and then again in March, from basically 12. And if you go from January to March, that's a huge jump, almost 20 for the seniors. Is that online?
I'm not seeing the increase you're describing.
So
They've remained pretty consistently with 50 throughout the year.
I think he's going like, is he looking at the 73 and 92?
Yeah, the numbers that are in line, the white line underneath the 12, those are the total for those entities.
Okay.
So we've remained fairly consistent with the 12th graders, around 50 throughout this school year.
Okay. Thank you.
And I believe 14 of those are early graduates, actually. So, yeah.
The HVAC, I saw, installation is coming along, you said to be determined, how's that looking, is that ahead of schedule, or?
No, because it was supposed to be done about a year ago. So with this latest change order, which will be our last change order on it, the control valves, we were able to knock out quite a bit over spring break. In the 2 weeks following, we were waiting for another set of 61 valves for our phase 2 of the installation. Those were supposed to arrive last week, but there's a little uncertainty as to where they were supposed to arrive. So I'm not sure if they were supposed to arrive here at APA or with the company Pranger who is doing the installation that's located, their home office is in Fort Wayne, or if it was with Train. And I believe Train is also trying to solve that solution. So we anticipated that they should be back within the next 2 weeks to install some of those. When they come in, they do the installation, they are doing it after hours. So they're typically working 4 to 4, so 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. and doing 12-hour rotations like that to knock them out because it cannot be done during the school day. They have to go into each classroom that is remaining and remove the old valves, install the new valves, and check the hot water and cold water supplies to make sure that we can isolate and shut off the water. And then if we can't, then they got to go do a building water shut off. Thankfully, all the isolation valves have actually worked, and so we've not had to do a full water shut off. But hopefully we will be done in June with the entirety of the project. And we did get the ESSER 3 amendment approved, so that all will still remain funded by ESSER 3. So there's that.
Perfect, thank you. All right, is there any other further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. All right, next thing on the agenda here is the financial report. 2023-2024 budget, we want to discuss the second reading. And Dave, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay,
And,
now, let's
what's your
see.
thoughts?
Since I'm not aware of any changes
Okay,
to date, Beth and Andrea, is there anything that you can share with us that would perhaps impact the next budget that we take a look at?
No, the only thing in your report that you had was talking about the fixed asset portion,
Mm-hmm.
that you were talking about that they came from ESSER. So the roof portion actually came, was $70,000 and $15,000 was paid out of CFIG and the other was paid out of innovation.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And the stage doors were just out of the general. So, and if we have additional at the end for charter innovation, we can use that. But so that I just wanted to because the HVAC is basically for the ESSER is basically for the HVAC.
Just the HVAC,
So I
okay.
just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, very good point.
No, I really don't think there's anything that's going to really impact where we are. I think we're sitting pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as far as, budget second reading, I was kind of hoping that I'd be able to say, hey, the legislators gave us our numbers today. That is not the case. And
No.
so we are still waiting. Know that their goal is to be done in 2 days statutorily. They are supposed to be done on Friday. So we should know at the end of this week where it ends up. I do know that their income forecast was actually an increase of $1.5 billion for their latest run, and so that should be favorable for a lot of our programming. We very rarely get into this business, but we did go ahead and send out a email blast and social media post to our families yesterday asking them to contact their legislators concerning the funding, because the Senate did cut or make a significant change to the charter funding programming as proposed by the House. And so we know that that is part of a bargaining tool that they use every year. And quite frankly, it's getting exhausting to be in this position and know that every biennium we are going to be really close in May trying to make those decisions where our new fiscal year starts in July and we have to have a budget approved every year. And so we did ask our families to activate and participate as they were willing, same with our staff, just so that they can hear what's happening here at APA and the impact that we are having on our community. So hopeful that that will all get resolved within the next week. We can have some breathing room. Andrea and Beth and I are already on the books for May 10th for me to go down and for us to hash out what hopefully will be the final draft of this, and then that will go to Finance Committee again. And we also should have our health insurance renewal numbers at that point. We won't have our property insurance renewal numbers, but we are in that process. I'm meeting with our broker Thursday to fill out one more application as far as that renewal goes, which is a 17-page questionnaire. And so that is always a fun time for everyone involved. And hopefully by the May meeting, I will have pretty much a final number on where property insurance should land as well.
Okay.
So,
Well, I think the first reading, the first draft looked very good. So I don't anticipate any really big changes except for those unknown variables on the funding and that. So as I said, I think that every year we get, with the first try, we get more and more exact. So that's good.
Yeah, it's getting there. So I appreciate hearing that, because we do put a lot of thought into that. But it helps when you have a strategic plan.
When would you expect that to be kind of finalized, or are we just still waiting for the legislators' decision on that?
So
Yeah.
yeah, we're waiting on the legislators, and the health insurance premium renewal just gives us a better idea. Once session closes, LSA will run one more run and show us what our funding will look like. One of the increases that we will definitely see will be in special education funding. That one is not they've increased that pretty significantly, and they have not even gone after that as part of a negotiation. And so what was in the House budget has remained in the Senate budget, so that's favorable for us considering our large population. And once we get through that, we should be okay. May 10th, like I said, Beth and Andrea and I will hash it out, and then we'll probably have it for Finance Committee review at the end of the next week or beginning of the following week, and then that will probably be our final budget. Once we go into committee, that is always a time where like, nope, we got to make this adjustment. But Andrea and Beth really like me to get it right the first couple times and not end up with 20 versions of the budget. That may have happened earlier on in my tenure. So
She does a great job.
Thank you.
Okay,
Alright.
let's see. Is
So we
that,
don't need to, like you said, we don't need to put a vote for that, right?
Oh.
We're just waiting for
No.
final.
no, sir, we don't need it
Okay.
until May.
Thank you.
well,
Alright, next
it's,
thing on the agenda here is the approval of the board's treasurer report. Dave, if you
Okay.
wanna go ahead and speak on that first, and then we'll
all
move forward.
right. Well, let's see, the question on my pre-meeting review is changes since last board meeting in our year-ending projections. And since we just met actually about 2 weeks ago, not a lot of changes, nor would we really expect any. Looking at total income compared to where we were at the last board meeting, that has been lowered a little bit in the amount of $41,479. Most of that was due to, I would call it ESSER 3, although it could be Innovation Grant or CFIG reimbursements as well. But anyhow, those reimbursements were lowered by about $46,000, which did offset something that doesn't occur a lot, is we actually were able to increase our expected food service reimbursements by about $53,000. And of course, also we did have that last $14,761, the last installment of the CFIG grant, which of course is as far as we know, a one-shot deal only. So we did very well with the proceeds on that. The total expenses actually were slightly lower in total. They were $3,410 lower. And then the net income actually was increased from our last set of projections, which were based on actual data through the end of February. So we're looking now at $264,533, which would leave us with an ending cash balance of $712,631 and those cents, I guess. Now, I did make a note. I think the one thing that the spreadsheet, our cash flow spreadsheet ending March the 31st did not reflect was the fact that, because, as we were just talking about with our February ADM count, the second count was lower than our first one, I think, to the tune of, I believe, 17 students. Your estimate in the March CEO report was about 69,000 or $23,500 or $600 per month. And so that would reduce the state tuition and then the numbers that I just quoted here in that amount for April, May, and June. So let's see, 69,849 to be specific. And that then would reduce our projected net income to 194,684. Cash would be 642,782. Now, also on my report, I had the amended budget to compare where we thought our actual year end would be. And then also at our last meeting, we had our first reading, a column for our first reading of the budget. And that, of course, has not changed, except that since we do have a slightly lower projection on our cash net income, reading off of my little note sheet here, the first reading of the budget was showing a $408,000 cash loss. And we do know that we have a built-in buffer, so to speak, on health insurance because we have to make the conservative assumption, since we don't know who's going to take what, if any, coverage until school starts. We assume that everybody who is an employee and is eligible would have a fully loaded APA health care plan. And that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe $285,000, $286,000. And then again, based on some of Jill's earlier estimates as to how much additional funding we can get when this is eventually settled, I think last month we said it could be as much as $249,000 or something lesser than that. Now, if we throw in the new lower projected cash net income, that would knock our cash down to $642,000. Let's see, I think I've got, ignoring the drop in the state tuition for the last 3 months, we would be looking at, we're projecting $712,631, and if you include that $69,000-$70,000, that would knock us down to $642,782. So that's just about all that we can say here as far as where we think we'll be on June 30th. And then we'll have to wait next month. We'll have a better feel for any changes in the budget.
I do want to make kind of a note on that.
Okay.
One of the things, if you look on our cash flow and you look at our debt service, currently we put into the amended budget the entire yearly fee of having the Halo devices.
Right.
And we do not.
$115,000, I believe.
Right. Yeah. And we do not have those installed yet. So, you know, hopefully in May, all of it will actually be installed, but you know, we would only be looking at like 1 month worth of payment on that.
Okay.
So
I think your an earlier estimate was maybe around 80, but it sounds like it could be less than that.
Yeah, it will be much less than that because we went ahead and put the full 12-month cost in there. So breaking that down, because that would make it helpful.
Let's see.
Almost there. Hit the wrong operation. My math teacher in here is going to be really mad at me on that one. That if we actually got them all installed in May and operational, it would be about $9,600 for the month of June. And so, you know, that's about $105,000.
That'll improve our bottom line.
So just put that out there, because, you know,
Very
saving
good.
for a rainy day.
Okay. Let's see then. Moving on to the month of March, we already knew that we had budgeted for March and also for April, to a lesser extent, a negative bottom line on a cash basis. Actually, the budgeted loss of $339,734. Well, let's see. Wait a minute. That was the budgeted loss. Actually, came in slightly less at $312,429, which leaves us an ending cash balance of $677,838. There was basically no help in that bottom line improvement from our total income. In fact, just about, I think, almost every single category except tuition, which was equal or flat, and food service of all accounts, which usually kind of throws us out of whack here on our budget variance analysis. Everything was off, and to a total of $151,000. Now, I did notice looking at what we had budgeted for the month of April, we're budgeting a higher income than we had in March. So with any luck and good fortune, we probably will, some of what we did not get in March will probably come into us in April, let's hope, or by May anyhow. So let's see, and I noticed even E-rate and even fees and fundraising seemed like every income account was pretty much out of off budget, out of whack there. Let's see, and then as we already talked about on the year end, we're doing pretty well on our expense accounts compared to our amended budget, because this time I think virtually every expense account, as I have them broken out here on the numbers which I give before the meeting, those are all substantially below budget, anywhere from $1. No, wait a minute. No, for the month, anywhere from $2,213 as much as almost $30,000. So total expenses were $151,000 below our amended budget. And then the only line that was over budget, and there's a caveat to that because that is the building improvements line. And we do know that depending on where the money is coming from, is it ESSER, is it innovation grant or whatever, that pretty much is going to be a wash, because the building improvements, my understanding of it is that when we have to pay the contractor's invoice, we pay it up front, and anything on that line is going to be a depreciable asset on the balance sheet. And then we file for reimbursement, and as you know, sometimes we get the money quickly, and then it could be a couple months before it comes in, but we will get it. And if it's at the end of the year and it does not come in like last year happened, we know it all come flooding in July and August. So one has to be, I guess, cognizant of what is represented by that building improvements expense, because often, like the food service income does in total income, it sort of fouls up one's budget, actual versus budget analysis. Makes it look like we've got a problem when we really don't have, just a matter of reimbursement timing. And let's see, April then, I always want to mention, on an accrual basis, which would be our official books per the bank and other governmental entities. Interestingly, March showed a slight profit of about $19,308. And as we have said before, sort of in a tutorial sense, the big difference between our cash budget or cash basis statement and the accruals is basically a matter of timing. Revenues, income, and expenses on accrual statements are booked or realized when they're earned, which may or not be the same as when the bills are paid, i.e. credit, for example. And then also these large expenditures, the HVAC that we mentioned here, on an accrual statement, or as we have to pay the bill maybe a couple smaller installments, But on the balance sheet, of course, that is depreciated over what we think the useful economic life of that asset will be. So we don't say too much about the accrual basis, but we do want to acknowledge that. And sometimes there is quite a difference. You'll have a huge cash loss, but show a positive net income, and then vice versa. So, and then the last point I have to make here is looking at April, we should have we have higher budgeted income. So hopefully that will be much higher than what we had in March, but we're still looking at a $145,439 loss. Now that's not including a $23,000 or so on the ADM funding, so that might knock that down a little bit. The only other point I guess I would like to make before turning it over to anybody else has any questions or comments or anything else financially that we need to discuss. I'm just looking at the our projected ending cash balances, and I'm thinking this is pretty much returning to where we were historically pre-COVID. You know, last couple of years we've been used to seeing balances in some cases over $2 million. Now, that's good to see. Of course, one has to remember that that is being funded as a government relief effort, and it's incoming, outgoing. It's a wash basically. And but still, as we indicated at our last meeting, we are in a transitional period, I believe, because now we're going back to the cash balances that we used to have a couple years ago, and they're not going to be quite as large and expansive as we would like, which means we need to pay close attention to always trying to maintain a balanced budget. So that's my sermon for the evening, I guess. So that's all I have.
And I will say, for what it's worth, you know, the public can trust us to be fiscally responsible, but our legislators also expect us to use all of the funding that we are getting. And so because we do maintain a balanced budget, we are making sure that we are spending everything that we are being given. It does help us justify the case for additional funding.
Right.
So if we were sitting on some nice cash reserves,
Mm-hmm.
you know, up into the COVID era time period, we actually would not be meeting our maintenance of effort, which is a calculation that they do every year. And
Mm-hmm.
if we do not maintain our MOE, which is what the maintenance of effort is called, they will reduce some of our funding through our title programs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So one of our favorite phrases, spend it while you got it.
Yes.
So we took the luxuries of COVID and made sure that we were very responsible with that, but maximized every penny. And we are in a strong financial position, even moving forward.
Yes, agree. How'd I do, Beth and Andrea?
Good.
Andrea's smiling. I don't know why. Oh,
So
okay.
it's budget season and getting ready to end of the month and all that. So
I will make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is that the same as my presentation, or did we vote on that next?
that's your presentation.
Oh, okay.
Your
I'm always a little worried
presentation.
about the voting on that one.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Dave, for that, as always. Truly appreciate that. We need to go ahead and put a motion in for approval for the March 2023 financials too. We'll just put that on record.
Yes, so moved.
Thank you. I have a motion in a second.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dave. Thank you to bookkeeping, Beth and Andrea, for all y'all do. We truly appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll be chatting soon. All right, have a good rest of your evening. Thank you again. All right, next thing on the agenda here is new business, APA Spotlight, APA Elementary, Captain Adam Fraley.
Hello, good evening. How's everybody doing tonight?
Very good.
Do I stand here? Is
Stand it wherever you want to stand.
Okay, alright. Here.
We may prefer not on top of our table, but
You don't want me to lie down on top?
yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Unless the meeting gets boring and starts to drag, and we may have to spice it up a bit.
2 weeks ago in Cyber Night, we just popped the squat up and did just a great time to go their actual presentation.
Do we need to move Ryan so he can see?
Okay.
I'm good, go ahead.
Okay.
I will say I can shoot him a,
You can see okay, Ryan? I can, you want me
We
to turn
can
you just a little?
Tilt you that way.
If you
Pause
want,
for
you guys.
dramatic
Yeah, you wanna tell them
You
all?
guys, everyone else.
I'm trying not to drop you off, you're right on the ledge.
so I'm very disappointed.
There you go, is that better?
Figure that out.
Or is my head in the way or anything?
That's
I can move.
perfect, thanks Dave. No,
Okay.
you're perfect, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I can.
We're so close. It's coming.
It's a sign they're asking for a new projection.
There we go. All right, well, I can go ahead and begin. I know what the first slide that talks about, talking about our enrollment numbers. And I want to start, first of all, by just thanking the board for allowing each school to spend a few minutes and just giving some highlights or just some touch points on what we've been doing. So specifically at the elementary, I'll be touching just on a few things that we have done this semester and or will be finishing the semester out with. All right, great. All right. Right now at the elementary, we have 328 cadets enrolled in person and then 24 online, making for a total of 352 total cadets. Did you change your mind? You missed the presentation so much.
Kim is back.
So obviously that 352 total number, that's pretty great for us. I'm feeling pretty good about our enrollment numbers. In fact, I know that you're all aware that for the past few years, we've been very innovative, strategic. We're trying to make room for the capacity of cadets that we have. And I know that Commandant has kept you all aware of some of those things, but you know, recently the stage has been turned into 3 different areas, 2 for office space and then 1 for a pretty nice reading interventionist that has our library in there as well. And so we've just continued to be innovative, and then I know that with the possibility of, as we're working toward 25th Street and getting that revigorated, that we can think about how we can divide the number of cadets in a different way and hopefully give some more space for the needs that we have.
About how many in-person students could you accommodate, do you think, roughly?
Well, we're in.
Because I think
right
So
now,
we're pretty cozy.
we're at full
pretty cozy.
capacity
Yes.
now.
I mean, we do have some classrooms in the upper grades, 4th and 5th, are around 24 cadets. I mean, so, you know, that's, the average is within the 22 that we're
Right.
allowed to have per classroom, but it is pretty cozy at the moment.
Okay.
All right, just a brief piece on some academic information. We were ahead of the game when it came to the science of reading. The Department of Ed had early on had asked for schools to see if anybody was interested in joining Lit Cadre, which would then be emphasizing and working on learning the components of the science of reading. Now the DOE is expecting it for all schools to move to this model, and so we do feel a little bit ahead of the curve. And the reason we decided to move to that in the first place was we could see a trend in our data showing that our reading instruction must not have been where we needed it to be. And so we knew that we needed to look at the approach from K through 2 and then eventually the K through 5 lens of how we can do reading instruction a little differently and more aligned. And so with the help with the literacy cadre, who has partnered with Cell Indy, or Cell, which is part of U Indy. They have helped us develop some. We've had some professional development opportunities. Jessica Hornacher has had some coaching, professional development, and continues to be part of this lit cadre, where we're learning new practices and new strategies on how we can teach reading, the science of reading specifically. As we look forward, we're hoping to expand that through a K through 5 initiative. Right now it's K through 2. And the curriculum that we're using is called Amplified Learning, and that is right now for K through 2, but hopefully we will be looking at adopting that for 3 through 5 in the future as well. So with that, we did have some academic gains this spring term especially. The goal for NWEA would be that we want to see 50% or above for students reaching their goals, and then 100% above for the projected growth. And if you look at, which I know you can't see it very well on the left side, but the top two talk about the math goals, the bottom two are the reading, are the reading goals. And you can see that in the spring, or in the winter, we did not meet those goals, but you can see in the spring we did meet those target goals. And so we are feeling optimistically confident that that could be part of the transition to the science of reading, as well as some of our intervention programs that we're doing at the elementary at the moment. Now, before you ask me questions about the math piece, yes, looking at the math data, we do have some planning and some strategic review to see what we need to do to get our math goals where they need to be as well. So the curriculum team, especially using Jessica Hornacher at the elementary, we're talking about some ways that we can hopefully come up with a new plan to address some of those math needs.
Is that a typical pattern? I'm wondering, where your first tests are lower and then improved
yes,
later in the
that would be
year?
correct. But if I had the data even farther back, we would have had the beginning of the year data. So we do NWA 3 times a year. But we should, no matter what time of year that, and Commandant can correct me if I'm wrong, each time we do NWEA, we should still be hitting these target goals each time, just obviously increasing what the RIT score would be. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And really, looking at winter, looking to that 40 to 50% meeting their targets, that would be ideal for us. Also looking at the projected growth, we really want to see that pretty much between 90 and 100% in the winter. 100% would be ideal, but we also know that we have a lot of interventions that are required, and so as soon as we get our fall scores and they can kind of give us the baseline, we start developing targeted interventions. And so this year we have our STAR tutoring program, which we have recommended students for. We also have our additional interventionists that we have added, and with the science of reading, that has also helped significantly. We've also been bringing STAR tutors in during the school day to provide ELL interventions, which is significant because that's what the elementary is where we have seen the most growth with our ELL students. And then we also have had to add some additional special ed staffing because we've seen some behavioral challenges and those things as well. And so this growth is very promising. In the winter we were a little what's going on, guys? But this is showing that what we are doing is working. And one of the things that we will see definitely in the fall and again next winter, because we are addressing our reading challenges and we are using the science of reading, which is a very systematic approach to it, and it is focused on neuroscience and using visualization techniques, we will see our math scores increase. Now, well, in the past we could just sit on that, right? We also know because of the pandemic, because of the prior deficiencies that we were seeing just across the board, that the nation is seeing across the board, especially in math, that we need to do a strong intervention there as well. And so we are re-examining our curriculum K-12. We are working on our vertical and horizontal alignment and making sure that the programming that we have is going to actually build the capacity for our students, and that it is going to be scientifically based very similar to the science of reading. So we are, as I'm a member, part of why I'm talking so much is because I am a member of our curriculum team. Curriculum has always been my passion, and so we are examining several math programs that will actually provide what we need to. Now, we are several years ago, or a few years ago, we implemented IXL, and that program is functioning as a diagnostic. It also gives our students that drill and kill practice, the things that they're not really great, really thrilled about, but they are getting a lot of reinforcement of their skills that they are learning in the classroom, and we are seeing exponential growth with IXL. So very happy with that dynamic, and there's a crew that went to an IXL training a few weeks ago. They're very pumped up because they now have curriculum intervention tied to that. So looking for a very robust curriculum that is going to meet the needs of our students, but also as Captain Fraley alluded to, the legislators have passed, especially today, they did pass legislation about having a more scientific approach to certain curriculum. So we are ahead.
Can I ask a question? I know that we're gonna have summer school and that's gonna be like mandated for specific students. Is there gonna be any other types of summer things to help keep that, to help, lower that gap or whatever from
absolutely.
summer to next fall?
Which is the next slide.
Next
So-
slide.
So, yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
so yes, you
okay.
hit the
Good job. She's a plant.
You guys
did that
rehearse
part
that?
for me.
Yeah.
Summer school remediation, yes, that will be traditional. Those cadets that have those deficits are I-read non-passers. That will be a big push during that time as well. But then the new this year is in July, right before coming back, is that back to school boot camp / jumpstart. And yes, that will focus on the transition year specifically. Our 3rd grade to 4th grade, our 5th grade to 6th grade, our kindergartners coming in, because kindergarten has definitely been a new challenge for us this year. It's been a whole new thing. Kindergarten's been different this year. So yes, to answer that question, we are 2 different approaches this year, and hopefully that's gonna help with that retention piece for sure.
Yeah, and our STAR programming, that it's going to be for the entire month of June. Usually in the summer, at least 2 years ago and pre-COVID, we really only did like a 3-week intervention, and that was all we were able to do. But thankfully, with our partnership with STAR and that grant that we co-wrote a couple years ago, it'll be fully funded. It is a robust approach. It is based off of a lot of our principles here at APA. Kind of helps to co-author some things that way. And so it is not going to just be sitting in a room doing a lot of worksheets. It's going to be a lot of engagement, enrichment, project-based learning, hands-on, really kind of getting to the root of it, but kids are going to have a lot of fun to it. So very excited about that. And then the Jumpstart boot camps, that is new for us, and we're doing that right before we come back for school, trying to set everyone up for success. So.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks for your help. No, thanks for your help. The next slide would be on attendance, and Michael's going to talk about that, but I wanted to just hit on this briefly. Before the pandemic, I won't live in a fantasy world thinking that we didn't have any attendance issues at the elementary, but we certainly didn't have the frequency or the number that we have had since being back to normalcy from the pandemic. And so thank goodness we've had Michael to help with that this year, to kind of help triage that and help find new ways that we can attack this in a positive way to reduce the number of absences and tardies.
Yes, thank you for having me twice in 1 month. So I teach half-time, but I wear multiple hats, so I help with the graduation stuff. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm on the other end of the spectrum helping the elementary with their attendance, because it is a beast, but it's a needed beast. So what we do, I track weekly attendance. I'm specifically tracking the unexcused absences. Other people track the excused absences. The unexcused have us at most concerns because it sets up trends for chronic absenteeism as they progress through school. And there's all kinds of scientific reasoning and scientific studies talking about chronic absenteeism and how that can impact life outcomes and outcomes in high school. So what we do is, once we start seeing trends towards high numbers of unexcused absences, we'll start mailing letters home. And then as they keep progressing, we'll start doing phone blast home reiterating to our parents and our families the importance that it is okay that if your kid is not here, we just need you to tell us why they are not here. It's kind of unexcused absences is like a no call, no show in the working world, so we don't really know what's happening, what barriers are in place. If you tell us that your car is not working, you don't have gas, or a family member passed away or something like that, we have resources in place, but if we do not know what those barriers are, it makes it very difficult for us to help them. So with that, we have several parent-guardian meetings taking place, getting attendance contracts, getting resources in place. And what we have seen over the last several months, especially as we have now done this for several months since August, we are seeing increased family engagement. Captain Fraley's email is getting more filled up with parents reaching out about why am I getting this letter, phone blast, they're calling the school to report absences, and instead of my unexcused absences being 2 pages long, it's now usually condensed to 1 page, and on certain days it's half a page, which is excellent. So we're seeing positive results with that, working with our attendance officer. It's just a lot to do for one person. We are very excited for some technology and resources next year that can help us streamline it even more through some programs that the Commandant has taglined as Qit. So I'm very excited to hopefully see that come with Qualtrics to get parents to better engage with us. But we are seeing positive results even with our excused absences. Parents are now getting those doctor's notes and those dentist notes, because you can tell me you went to the dentist, but if we don't have a note on file, it's hard for us to excuse it. So overall, we are seeing increased attendance, which has an effect across the board. Those math scores go up, those reading scores go up, because they are now attending school. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited to keep studying this. I have some nice resources that have been sent to me. I do attendance trends for the team, and we have some ideas in place next year to even lower our numbers again this year as well.
Thank you, Mark. All right, the next few slides just kind of showcase some events that will be happening, that have happened second semester, and then specifically April and May. So field trips, obviously, we think it's important that all of our cadets get to experience some type of field trip, hopefully 2 a year. We know that many of our cadets, these are opportunities that they may not have, and so we want to make sure we continue to afford those opportunities. Obviously, music and art, very important to what our cadets learn, so we will be having that program as well, and the next slides kind of talk about when those events are. We have a kindergarten graduation, and that's something that's exciting that we do, because now we have partnered with the academy, and so seniors will actually come down and participate with those kindergartners during that graduation, and so that's a new tradition that we started last year, and are excited to continue that. We'd like to celebrate our fifth graders by doing a dinner and a recognition. That's also used to be a tradition, and then we brought that back last year as well, so excited to continue with that. We will have an awards day program, and then field day right at the end of the school year. And then here, we just, at the elementary, we have just a simple Google Doc that we put all of our, as many of our events as we can in to one document, so that we can share it and constantly be updating that in real time. You can see that we put everything from, like April 12th, Sam Sorrell's birthday party, to on April 7th, we had an ELL family engagement night. On the 6th, we had a talent show. And then I did want to say on April 13th, we had Aerospace Education Day, so our pre-academy CAP students came over and did a great presentation for all of our cadets, and they get to build a little, either a plane or a rocket. They get to shoot the rocket off, and so the cadets have a pretty good time with that. And then obviously, I know I was just eavesdropping as she was talking about why we say we're not going to do this to ourselves, but then May comes, and then every possible thing comes into play in May. Obviously, more field trips. If you look up there, you see a few field trips, kindergarten to the zoo. Our fifth graders get to come over here to the pre-academy on the 9th to do that transition program over here with the teachers and staff and admin. We'll have our school carnival, which will be on Friday, May 12th. And then if you just look at the rest of the calendar, it's filled up with all kinds of opportunities for engagement for our families and for our kids. And then we'll end the school year with awards day on that Wednesday before, and then our field day will be on Thursday. If there's rain, we'll have it on Friday, the last day of school. The last couple slides just showcase some of those events that we've had this year. The first two pictures at the top left are our Valentine's or sweetheart stands. That's Sam Sorrell always is a good contact and a good person to help put on some of our events, especially some fundraising events. And so we always appreciate the work that she does to promote those and to get families in. And then we had for February, for part of our Black History Month, we have Mrs. Turner, who is one of our new teachers. She is a 5th grade teacher, and she did a remarkable, fantastic, moving job of portraying an age-appropriate, grade-appropriate Harriet Tubman experience for cadets. And so that actually, if you, I just clipped that little picture from Facebook. It is, I believe, on the Ox page or the regular page. It is a video.
It's on
that,
both.
okay, well, so if you would want to watch that, it's really powerful. The 2 slides, or the 2 pictures down at the bottom, our 5th graders got to go to BizTown. That was one of the field trips that they went to, and that's a great actually, that airplane went up there as well. It's an interactive, real experience where cadets get to experience what it would be like to try different professions and to see what it's like to be in the real world, and they had a fantastic, fun time with that. And then the other slide at the bottom is from our talent show, which was a new thing that we did this year at the elementary with our upper cadets, our Delta and Echo cadets. Finally, the last slide just showcases a few more events. We trying to motivate some staff members as well as spruce up the building and make it feel nice and warm and fuzzy for springtime. We all had a door decorating contest. We did that back in the winter and for the holidays, but we did that just a few weeks ago. The building looks, doors look really nice. Kids were excited about it. Those 2 pictures with cadets, it looks like they're getting ready to do some archery stuff. I believe that was at the Mounds State Park. That was one of the field trips that Delta and Echo cadets went on. And then on the top right, we do something that's a tradition at the last 26 days of school called the ABC Countdown, and each day just focuses on, each letter focuses on something fun or some event that we can do at school. So tomorrow's D for Disney Day, so cadets will be able to dress in Disney wear. The bottom left just showcases some things that happen at Star Tutoring. Those cadets are in Star Tutoring at that time. We're working on, looks like some robotic stuff from the makerspace or STEM, and doing some STEM work. And then Angie Deggy this year was our Max B candidate from the elementary, and I got to go to dinner with her and Commandant and Dave Ashby and celebrate her. And then finally on the right, Val Lester is very passionate about healthy eating and healthy habits, and she has partnered with Maddie and the Jet Fuel program and has presented, last week presented to the 5th graders, and they got to actually eat food from 25th Street and also from our aquaponics tower that Mrs. Lester has in her classroom, able to eat salads and help make them and really be involved. And then Maddie was able to help promote the Jet Fuel program as well. All right, I promised myself that would be faster than what I think it was, but that is all I have for this evening. So if you have anything else or any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
I do want to put a shout out. Our elementary, under Captain Fraley's leadership as well as his leadership team, we have really grown the opportunities that we have for our cadets, especially at the young age. And because we are a leader in me school, one of our really big principles is begin with the end in mind. And so this is something that Captain Fraley as well as Captain Stottlemyre have been really great about, as well as leadership team over at 29th Street, is engaging that entire K-12 community so that our kids can see what's coming for them, but also where the elementary can borrow some of the resources here and where our secondary can learn from the elementary. And so really unifying that. We faced this several years ago where we had a disconnect really in that K-5 era, and then the pre-academy, and even with the academy here in the same building. And so being able to really unify that approach and combine resources and experiences has really improved a lot of opportunities for everyone involved, as well as contributed to growing enrollment at our pre-academy and academy levels. So very appreciative. I know I brag on you a lot and you hate it, so thank you for all that you do. And then obviously I'll leave it to the board for any of the questions or comments they have.
Adam, I have a question. This is a great presentation. Thank you for everything you're doing. Sure. With the resources you do have at the limited space, obviously you're making the best of a stage.
Sure. Yeah.
this is actually going to something I mentioned to the board, and Jill, thank you for giving it to us about the wish list. Before I ask you this question, Jill, is that wish list in order of importance to y'all?
No, we've put a lot on there, and so, you know, as far as prioritizing, really what they would love is if we could make more space for them. I think that's number one priority, right?
And I'm gonna ask this just because it's at the top of the list. Sure. How bad are your floors on a 1 to 10? 10 being
Our floors?
yeah, the floor tile replacement.
Oh, we're great. Really, I mean, in the hall, okay, in the
Yeah,
hallways.
in the hallways.
We do have some classrooms that do need some updates, but I would say that that's been something that Commandant's worked really hard on the past few years. And so, yeah, we do have some, we know that the flooring and different rooms do need updated, but like the art room has been completely updated, and that was an issue where we were having a lot of tile issues. So yes, we would, if you wanna get us new floors, great.
I mean, we have you here. I figured I'd ask it so
Yes.
the board. I mean, that list is long, so I appreciate
Oh yeah,
that.
it is. Yeah, and I mean, as you go through it, we really focused on kind of those high impact areas, our hallway, where, you know, the building's settled, so we've seen a little bit of a little cracking on tiles and things. Our restrooms, that was a huge improvement for us. And then obviously the art room, because that is a high touch surface and high impact area. But, you know, looking at especially the flooring, because you can only buff and wax it so many times. Those tiles are older than most people in this room. And so, you know, that's an aesthetic that we want to improve for our kids. The roofs are always high priority on that as well. And then playground is always high priority.
Playground's a priority.
And your flagpole is very high priority for you right now.
It has been, you're right, yeah.
It's a little touchy, so.
And the playground would be, I would say, has become more of an issue since the number of cadets in the building that we have now, where there's just not as much for them to do. Now, we will have basketball courts that we're working on getting put up, and that's gonna help. But yeah, definitely the playground. And to be honest, some teachers just brought that to me a couple weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not out there, you know,
Yeah.
to recess.
They want additional swings
They do,
and
yeah.
some other things, and
Yeah.
Jackson Park getting new equipment probably has not helped
No,
their
it sure
desire
has
to
not.
see the new playground equipment's available.
Although they've been
And
taking them over there.
yeah, so thankfully we do have that right by, but
This is separate from the playground surface.
yes, so playground surface, one of the biggest challenges we have is that we have rubber mulch, and we keep it at a higher depth than insurance requires. And the rubber mulch also makes wonderful toys and projectiles for little kiddos. And so every time we have to refresh that, that is between $6,000 and $8,000. And so a lot of playgrounds that we've seen in the city and other schools, they have gone to a flat surface that is cushioned, reinforced, meets all safety requirements, and is also much more durable and can't be picked up and used to play with.
Yeah.
So that is that surface. But yes, as far as their playground wish list, that's a lot of like new equipment, new slides, new swings, and jungle gyms, whatever.
Do you have a class that's working something with, doing something with the playground?
Well, we did actually last year when Miss Hiller was a second and third grade teacher. Part of her project-based learning piece was the basketball court, which that has been something that has been taken care of as far as purchasing. We're just working to get them installed. But no, right now we don't have anyone focusing on
I'm
that.
gonna say I heard Mrs. Wiles' class.
Okay, I can
Yeah.
see.
Yes,
can see
Mrs. Wiles, her upcoming PBL, or the one that she's currently, she has been sending me some sneaky emails about swing costs and who we used in
She's
the
not
past.
sent any of those.
I know, sorry, sir. I'm showing.
That's what I was
Sorry,
asking
Amy
about.
Wiles, if you're watching this. Yeah, so they are doing some research, and this is part of what motivated us to go for that CFIG grant, is because when Captain Fraley and I were interviewed by Miss Hiller's class last year, they wanted to know how much it would cost to pave that surface so that they wouldn't turn their ankles anymore. And I couldn't tell them the actual cost of what it would cost to do that, because, I mean, I don't know that second graders could conceptualize, or third graders could conceptualize how much $50,000 is, or that no, that's not something you can go sell a bunch of candles or do that type of stuff for. And so that did motivate us as part, including that in CFIG, as well as getting updated basketball goals. Now that we are in that warmer weather, our new asphalt is almost fully cured and set, and we'll be able to start installing those. And it's really great. It's going to be really great to see the kids see that they did that, right? They requested it. They did research on it. They did find new resources, as well as getting more basketballs and things like that. So giving them that self-advocacy. But yes, your wings class is actually researching into playgrounds.
So yes.
Okay. I heard little rumblings about it, but didn't know the full what they were really doing or whatever, so.
Yeah. What else do you want on your
I
wish
know,
list?
right,
He's
right,
gonna
right.
go through and be like, hey, what haven't you added on here? So.
I hate to ask for too much, because I'm like, oh, we need, lots of things, but the things you mentioned definitely.
A second story would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
and you just
Or
add that,
20th Street.
add extra bathrooms, that's always a need, but, yeah, so. All right, any other questions?
I have a couple of questions here.
Oh, yes, sir. All right.
Really? First, thank you for the presentation, and thank you, Captain Strawmeyer, as well too, for presenting also. The zoo, do you guys do an annual trip to the zoo every year, Indianapolis Zoo, or is it Anderson Zoo?
And to the Indy Zoo, yes.
Indy, do you guys do that?
And it's
do you guys
typically
do
our-
a year-round trip, or every year trip, I should say, also to junior achievement to the Biz Town?
Yes, we do
You
that
guys
as
do
well.
too?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. One thing I was gonna say about playgrounds, and Jill, I can discuss this with you. I know there's a couple organizations in Indianapolis that write grants and try to help find funding for schools for them to get their playgrounds revitalized. They come over there, they do a site view, try to see what you're looking for, kind of do an interview, and then you try to pitch to them, and then they go out there and then try to see if they can get some funds for schools and stuff like that. And they do it throughout a lot of the communities in Indianapolis, not just schools, but also the local side as well there too. So Jill, I can pass that information to you and see what we can do for APA.
Oh, that would be phenomenal, sir. And we do have some highly motivated future leaders of America that are ready to bend anybody's ear about that.
For sure.
Yes. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Thank you again for presenting.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, you
All right. Next thing on the agenda, any other
See.
further discussion this evening? All right. Well, if not, can I get a motion to adjourn this evening, the meeting tonight?
George, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All right, the meeting has been adjourned. Thank you for everyone attending. We'll call it at 7:12 local, and hope everyone stays safe. And I'm sure we'll all be chatting and seeing everyone soon.
Okay.
But not too soon.
Not too soon.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll see you at the end of May.
Yeah, in the May.
Well,
Yes.